Hey y'all, welcome back to the channel. So in today's video, I've got some explaining to do. I went ahead and let the cat out of the bag on this one. So if you read the title, you know that the Willys Jeep is getting a 4-speed. The whole purpose of this video is to introduce the project and also explain why I'm doing it. I've got a bunch of stuff to talk about, so let's get into it. All right, y'all, so this is the culprit right here. This is the infamous T90 transmission. Now, when you start fooling with Willys Jeeps, you're gonna be fooling with these transmissions right here. They made these things roughly 45, 46 till 71. It's a BorgWarner top-loaded 3-speed, and Willys put them in everything. Wagon, truck, Jeep, they used them across the board. Little interesting fact too, this is the predecessor, the upgraded version of the T84 that was used in World War II. Honestly, these are great little transmissions. They're short, perfect for a short wheelbase Jeep. People for years have put V8s, 350s, 327s in front of them. They'll take that power just fine. But they do have their quirks and their problems. They are notorious for filling up with water. Now granted, you shouldn't leave any vehicle sitting topless in a field for 20 years, but I guarantee you, when you pull one of these Jeeps out of the weeds, that transmission is full of water and locked up tighter than a drum. I've never pulled one of these out where the transmission wasn't locked up. They also have a bad habit of popping out of second gear. And finally, my reasoning for getting rid of it is that first gear. I want to explain a little bit better what I mean by that first gear, and I also want to talk a little bit about this transfer case, the Dane 18. To do that, I've put together this little poster board thing here. I got out my magic markers and drew this up for y'all. There's a lot of numbers here that I just didn't want to remember. Now we're going to kind of start in the middle and work our way around. But the whole reasoning behind doing this 4-speed swap is this right here, is crawl ratio. Crawl ratio is pretty much how much your engine spins to make your tires spin. So you know, your engine turns, then your transmission turns, then your transfer case turns, then your axles turn, then finally that wheel right there makes a revolution. The way you figure up crawl ratio is transmission ratio, or your first gear, times your transfer case ratio, usually your lowest transfer case gear, and then your actual gear ratio. So as a constant in this, 5/38 is going to be my axle gear ratio. For a long time, that's what these Willys Jeeps come with. Later on, they did come out with a slightly higher ratio, but I'm going to do these numbers around what I have in my Jeep. So now let's talk about first gear. So right here is 3 different transmissions laid out. The T90A, that's what's in my Jeep right now. That's what's going to be in most Jeeps. Later on, they came out with the T90C. T90A, though, has a 279 to 1 first gear. Later on down the road, kind of after the 3B came out with something called the T90C, and it has a lower first gear of 344 to 1. Down below that is the T18, that's the 4-speed I'll be using. You can see a crazy low 632 to 1 first gear. That's that granny low first gear you've always heard about. And then talking about Dane 18 transfer cases, stock one out of a Jeep, you'll have a 246 to 1 low range. If you put the Terra low gears in there, it drops you down to a 315 to 1. All right, so now we're going to start crunching numbers. We'll use this little mathematical equation we got here. So a stock T90, a stock Dane 18, 538 gears, that'll give you a 37 to 1 crawl ratio. Now that's not terrible, but you're really looking for around a 50 to 1 at least for more control out there on the trails. That's the whole purpose of this crawl ratio thing, is you'll see people gunning it, giving it a bunch of gas, having to roll back and forth and rock it. Because their gears are so high, you gotta give it a bunch of gas to get it up over an obstacle. That's how you end up breaking stuff and you lose control of what you're doing. All right, so that's stock. Next, let's look into lower transfer case gears. This was a big thing for a long time back when TerraFlex had their low gear kit. Since they've been discontinued, but they still are available in some places. A stock T90, Dane 18 Terra Lows 538s, 47 to 1. So a pretty good bump just by re-gearing your transfer case. Next down the list, this will be a T90C with a stock Dane 18, 538 gears. Check this out, 44 to 1. What's pretty surprising about these two numbers here is with the Terra low gears, you were looking at least $1,000 to re-gear that transfer case to get this number. With the T90C, it's as simple as swapping out a couple things in your transmission that are readily available online. In this scenario, bang for your buck, I really feel like the T90C is the way to go. And then last on the list, the ultimate T90C Dane 18 with the Terra low gear, 538 gears, 57 to 1. Now we're talking, we're in that 50 to 1 range. Now for a long time, I thought this is what I wanted. I wanted the ultimate stock drivetrain for a Willys Jeep. But the more I thought about it, the more I read numbers through this equation right here, this is what I come up with. By swapping in a T18 4-speed, keeping the stock Dane 18 5/38, 83.6 to 1 by swapping the transmission out. See that first gear out there, that 632 to 1? That right there is what's getting us that super low crawl ratio. And what's crazy is, for the money, we're gonna come in a little more expensive than this, but way cheaper than this. Now, just like all T90s aren't made the same, like I was showing you, there's a T90A, a T90C. There's also one called the T90J that's got even worse first gear than this. All T18s aren't created equal either. The T18 I'll be using is what they call a wide ratio. It's got that 632 to 1 first gear. They also made a close ratio, 4 to 1 first gear, which is a lot less desirable. The perks to this T18 though is that super low first gear, and it's going to be tough as nails. These were used in all kinds of pickup trucks to big dump trucks. And I bet somebody out there is thinking right now, why not use an SM420 instead? The SM420 was Chevy's Granny 4-speed, and it's got an even lower 7 to 1 first gear. The problem I have with that transmission is they quit making it in like the 60s. They made these T18s all the way up into the 90s. Something else I bet a bunch of y'all are thinking is this is the never-ending project. He's never going to finish this thing. There's always going to be one more thing to do. Honestly, I don't know if a project like this is ever really finished, but I will be driving this thing as soon as I can. The plan for a long time has been to just put it back together the way it is, drive it for a while, do the 4-speed swap when I had all the pieces. Well, fortunately, while the tub's been off, I've got the rest of the pieces I need to put this 4-speed in. This is going to be a pretty technical swap. There's a lot of information I got to share with y'all. I've spent months, if not over a year, planning for this thing. This video though, it's not the how, it's the why. And I just want to explain to y'all real quick about why I was doing this and my reasonings for it. When I get this thing done, put together, and start driving it, I want to drive it and enjoy it and not be doing big projects like swapping in a 4-speed. I don't think I was ever going to be happy with that 37 to 1 gear ratio, especially here in Tennessee. I've watched a bunch of videos of people running stock drivetrains, and in the right location, it's totally fine, but you still end up getting up on a rock or something. You got to rock it back and forth, give it a bunch of gas, and you end up breaking things. I want that slow crawl, I want that control. So like I said, this video is just introducing the project, telling y'all the why. Next video, we're going to actually get our hands dirty. We're going to start tearing into this transmission. I'm going to show y'all everything I've got to make this whole thing work. It's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be a lot of learning, a lot of information, a lot of work. But by the end of it, I'm going to have something really unique that fits my needs. And this is just one more thing to complement this old Willys Jeep. Let me know y'all's thoughts and concerns down in the comments. I really appreciate y'all checking out this week's video. I hope you enjoyed it. I'll see y'all next time.